So thank you very much. I speak at a lot of conferences usually, but these are search marketing conferences, so it is pretty much refreshing for me to be surrounded by developers. Usually I end up debating with them a lot. Hopefully not this time, not at all, I think. I'm delighted actually to speak today, to share a few of the insights and experiences that I have had in the last couple of years with AMP to maximize AMP results, to make the most out of it through the optimization process and achieve results during that. So I have already been introduced a little bit. In case you don't know, I have been doing SEO for a little bit of more than 11 years. I have spoken a little bit about it around the world. I have also written a book. It's in Spanish, though. But if you're a Spanish speaker and want to learn Spanish while reading a little bit about SEO, which is fun, really, just let me know. I'll be happy to give you a free copy. In any case, what I do at a day-to-day basis, or at least this is what I tell to my grandma, is this. I'll help brands and companies to connect with them, usually nowadays through mobile devices, in search, through search, really. Usually I help, at this point, pretty big brands, but realistically, ultimately, speed is an issue that affects and negatively influence many different types of websites, from smaller websites to huge websites, too. And this, from a purely SEO perspective, is also pretty big. It's huge, and it will become even much more important with the upcoming mobile page speed update. In case you haven't heard about it, it's coming in July. And until now, Google hadn't taken speed into consideration, and now it's going to be an actual ranking factor coming from your mobile web presence. So we really want to make the most out of the AMP opportunity to easily fix this. If at some point we haven't yet, right? Hopefully you have, but in case you haven't, besides giving your website a much more delightful experience and an amazing user experience and accessible design and provide all this magnificent functionalities while keeping UX best practices, you want also to make the most out of it. Realistically, these are the type of results that we can obtain with AMP, right? I have helped websites from huge websites in the news sector to smaller communities, to blogs, to B2C and B2B, and in general, I have to say that the results are pretty much impressive, right? And for some of my clients, really, AMP became a requirement if they wanted to be included in the top stories carousel. These were informational websites that really wanted to be there, right? So we went one of the first, I have to say, with a few of them to implement AMP and to go through the troubleshooting process. And despite the huge opportunity that AMP gives us, this is the reality, right? This is study and analysis that SEMrush did across many countries. I think it was 8 countries, from the US to Europe. You can see a few of them here, the top ones, to identify which were the most important issues, the critical issues that they had, and how correct and optimized their AMP implementation was, right? You can see the results there. 70% of top publishers had errors. And this is not an exception, I have to say. Many of my clients, like, for example, I have clients that have communities on AMP, right? And they have the typical issue of user-generated content. Well, they need to validate and make sure that users don't add whatever type of character that can or embed any image or video or element or resource that will make that page to not be able to validate well. And then you have all the type of websites. And every type and different type of websites will have different type of issues and scenarios and errors. So this is not unique to publishers for sure. And realistically, this can be very well aligned with your optimization process, right? What I have found and what I repeat again and again is that the most difficult SEO task is not necessarily only identify the issue, but make sure first to avoid it, and then to align the optimization process with your already existing development process, content creation process, marketing process, et cetera, to make it viable, to make it also relevant and profitable at the end of the day. So first issue here that we can easily solve with a correct optimization process. And well, maybe I shouldn't do a voice, but let's do a little bit of a voice. Typical client, oh, my site engagement decreased after launching AMP, right? It's like I expected to see his huge spike in traffic, and all of a sudden, what is this? Where are these shitty results? You promised me that I will have an increase, right? So this is a typical comment and complaint of someone who didn't really assess the AMP implementation at the beginning. Because the decision shouldn't be necessarily at this point, right? Can I implement all these functionalities and content in AMP? Because we have all these many components already. But what is the best configuration? What is the best setting in case you have an independent mobile website, in case you're doing responsive web design, in case you're doing dynamic serving, right? There are so many different decisions to be made. And so how do we start? First, we should go through all of the different types of components and realize and identify if all of our current functionalities can be easily implemented through them, if they can be replicated. And, well, we have all these resources. We can even troubleshoot them. We can even copy our current code and use the documentation there and go through it with the development team, and hopefully also with your own SEOs to see if it is feasible also to do it in a way that is accessible, that is correctly indexable, et cetera, et cetera. And we should keep this also in mind, the different type of settings that we can have with our own mobile website, right? We can use responsive or dynamic settings. We can have independent mobile website, right? We can use AMP as your own website or canonical AMP. If you can use independent mobile website with non-canonical AMP, and you will end up having to support like 3 different types of web properties at the end of the day, which might not be necessarily the most cost-effective way to implement it, right? So, just an example, right? 2 different implementations of independent mobile website along AMP. Like we have WikiHow. WikiHow have their desktop websites, their canonical URLs, the ones that are indexed at this point because we haven't moved yet to the mobile-first index, which is expected to happen in a few months by Google. And then we have the AMP version loading there under the M subdomain. And then we have the independent mobile website version without the AMP parameter there. So every single change, every single update, they need to replicate it in 3 different types of properties, which can be a little bit too much, right? This doesn't mean that it's not good or is correct or incorrect. It works for them. They have their own characteristics, their own needs, their own restrictions, their own goals, resources, etc. And they implemented it right there, like this. And then we have this other type of setting, like with the Irish Times. They have their desktop website like this, and they have an independent mobile website implemented directly through AMP, through AMP, that loads directly there. So every time if you go to Chrome and you emulate any type of mobile device, or if you go to the mobile and you enter here, you will be directly shown this result here, this page here, whether you have gone through the mobile SERPs or not, because they're independent mobile website directly in AMP. So which is better for you? Which makes much more sense based on your own restrictions and capabilities? A lot of people right now is trying to move from independent mobile settings to responsive of dynamic serving because of Google upcoming mobile-first index. Because at the end of the day, your independent mobile settings will canonicalize directly. If you have them like this, you will need to canonicalize to your desktop one. And this won't make sense necessarily when the mobile-first index comes, right? So this is something that you need to really validate, check well. But if this is maybe a good point for you to migrate first to a responsive setting, if you can directly implement AMP there, or if you want to minimize the AMP implementation like this directly. Also, something very important that in the past, at least, with the independent mobile settings, it was not needed. But nowadays, we have been asked to include every single structured data and tags in general that we had in our desktop versions to our mobile ones, and also in AMPs. Like, for example, hreflang annotations. If we had hreflang annotations in our own desktop versions to specify the language and alternatively the country that we are targeting with each single page, and their alternate sister versions of each page, the ones that are targeting other languages or other countries, to specify the relationship between them, we need to also implement those in the AMP URLs. And this is a type of setting that we will have with the independent mobile organization or scenario. It's a little bit more complicated, right? So again, it's important to assess what is much more feasible to implement by you internally, right? Because, for example, here we have our desktop version, and of course, we need to specify which is our AMP URLs, and the AMP we need to canonicalize back, and the same with the independent mobile setting, exactly the same. And then again, we need to include the language or alternatively the country values in each one of them. A little bit of more work, isn't it? What is best for you? What is much more efficient for you, right? But you need to go through this and understand the specifications, what you can do with each one of them, and what is the best way to apply them. Then again, we have the relatively new also requirement that came in place this month, I think already, about content parity. The same content that is available in your canonical URL, in your canonical pages, in case you are not implemented AMP directly in them, needs to be also shown in your AMP ones. What happens, right? A lot of websites, they were just using AMP, they were using AMP as a sneak preview, and you need to click on the button to be referred directly to the canonical page. That was not using AMP, not necessarily giving the best experience in general or speed, so we ended up having the same non-ideal situation, right? So this shouldn't be the case anymore. You should avoid to do this. And realistically, there were many questions around the SEO community around this, because a lot of publishers, they love to have the button in their original mobile website saying like, load more, or show me the whole content. That is not shown by default sometimes. And sometimes you're taken to an additional URL, not necessarily the initial one. So realistically, to keep things clear, if you actually want to do this with your AMP URLs, you should also be doing this with your original canonical URLs, which might not necessarily be the best in order for Google to really access and rank well these pages, because you won't be showing your whole content then there, right? So if you're showing 10 paragraphs in your original canonical URLs, you need to show those same 10 paragraphs in AMP, right? So again, it's about parity in this case. The content that you deliver in one way, you should deliver in the other. And this is so funny for me because, of course, this is just an example. This is not a website that I have worked on. But I had this very typical scenario that I have found many times. The first time that I helped through an AMP optimization process. And the client was like, oh, my God, when I implemented AMP, I saw all this. I lost engagement. The bounce rate is horrible. Can you please take a look? And I went and checked, and I saw that they had no menu. How do you want the users to continue browsing to your site? Right? You eliminate the hamburger menu or the menu in general from your AMP implementation, and you're not allowing the users to continue browsing to your site, to continue engaging with your content. So don't do this. Do this, right? I've done a little bit of tests with a few clients, and I have asked, which one is the AMP version? Like when we have finished the process across a few users, right? Sometimes they don't even know, because the experience is really replicated. The experience is right there, and this is what we should be looking to achieve, to implement the UI, the functionality, the content that we give with your original mobile pages with the AMP ones. And if at some point we decide, again, that we have an independent mobile site, we implement additionally an AMP URL parallelly to it. Like in this case, for example, we have the Time website, right? And this is not the first time that I see this happening, right? I am shared this URL through social networks. I click on it, and I go to the AMP version like this, and I'm not redirected to the relevant desktop page, because I am accessing through my desktop device, right? So we shouldn't forget about mobile configurations and best practices here. If I am accessing through a desktop device to an independent URL that is targeted toward mobile, then I should be redirected to the relevant desktop URL. Because otherwise, the experience is not that good, right? I will end up leaving anyway. Or the easiest way to fix this actually will be to implement this page directly as a responsive web design. Then it will be multi-device, and I wouldn't be needed to be redirected anyway. And of course, if at some point, somehow, we don't like the results that we're getting, and we decide to disable AMP, we need, again, to follow certain SEO best practices. We just don't remove the tags, and that's it, and start returning 404 HTTP status in the all AMP URLs. No, 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 no. We need to 201 redirect. We need to save that traffic, refer that old traffic to keep what we have gained until now, and refer all this traffic to our own canonical URLs that we are keeping and we are still working with, right? Like, actually, there's really good here resource, step-by-step type of results, independent of the type of configurations that you have on your site, right? But it should be pretty straightforward. So as you can see, it's all about assessing the viability and the best way and setting that is the correct one based on our own resources and capabilities and goals to achieve. And then this is another very common scenario. The AMP version is launched, and then we get all of this huge share of errors all of a sudden, and we don't know where to start, right, fixing them. So it's about validating. Validating, well, before, during, and after the launch is happening, right? First thing, and this is very important, it's not only about sharing the specification on how to implement the components, but actually what are the actual errors that are the most common ones to find, and the one that should be validated to avoid also when the AMP URLs are generated. And there's actually a reference there of validation errors. These are the ones that are also used through the Google Search Console. So this is a great reference to have through the implementation process. And then again, there are some Google-specific errors that we should keep in mind that have to do also around content parity. That these are specific to Google, but again, if we want to be shown in a mobile search, then I'm pretty sure that you want to be shown in a mobile search through your AMP URLs. These are the ones that you should also keep in mind. And this is a list of the most common errors to look for. Again, this based on the study of SEMrush that they did across many important publishers that had AMP implemented. And a lot of disallowed attributes, tags directly from HTMLs to invalid URLs, etc., disallowed resources. So these are the ones that we should be looking for in order to actually provide the expected results. How we should do it. I have found the best time to start validating really is not when the code is already generated at the end, right? It's to work alongside the development team, to go and troubleshoot and look with them for these errors. Even before the code is already ready to be tested on a test environment, pre-production environment that is accessible for almost everybody that is a stakeholder in the project, right? So what I have done in these cases is to use the project validator when you can actually even copy-paste, and you can paste here the code to look for mistakes and problems, specifically with the top templates, the homepage, the listings, the products, the community, the blogs, to look for the errors there. There's also a way here to be able to test specific internal pages that are not publicly available, where you can also do an in-graph tunneling, easily configurable. And this, of course, is to go through your top most important templates. Once that you have the implementation done through them, you need to crawl them. There are many SEO crawlers, simulators, that right now support AMP and are able to specify all of the type issues that the Google Search Console will warn about, like DeepCrawl, for example. They will identify what type of mobile setting you have, and they will specify here, page by page, if, for example, you have a non-reciprocal mobile AMP type of relationship, the annotations are not found, which are these pages, at which level of the URL structure they are, in the web architecture of our site. The same with Sidebulb. I love because it's very visual and very telling. They will tell you which ones are passed here, where there are no issues, how many have been crawled, how many have been crawled with AMP, which are the actual issues, the one in red, the critical issues, the ones that will not make your page to actually be shown in mobile SERPs, the ones that are actually advisory, desirable, not necessarily required, but desirable to include them directly and refer them directly. And then you will be able to generate a list of canonical URLs and URLs with each specific issue listed like this, segmented by the type of problem. So it's much more easy to go through them and apply the fixes to them directly. And of course, once that we launch, we will be watching the Google Search Console. This is a new one. I love it. It's amazing. It's much more visual. You will see how we can do the whole troubleshooting process through it. It's not just to check there the issues, but actually to go through the issue and fix them with it. But of course, like I have 2.8 million URLs that are valid. I have 36K. Actually, I'm very proud of this. Just 36K from almost 3 million. Amazing. But then, again, there are so many different types of issues that we don't know where to start, right? How do we do? We go through, and this, I love this, because we can go and select only the actual critical errors there, and we will only be shown those. So we will prioritize those that are affecting more pages, right? So we can filter those affecting more pages, and then go through the ones where we want to really see results, the type of pages that are much more critical for us from a business perspective. Maybe the posts are not the most important ones on our site, maybe the listings, maybe certain categories, et cetera, et cetera. We can filter them now much more easily through the Google Search Console interface, and then we can select and go through them. We can see which have been the last identified here, and we can go through them and see the exact snippet in the code that has the specific issue. And we can go through the top 10 of them to identify the pattern there. What is the pattern that we can identify here? The one scenario, the one instance that is generating again, again, and again the same type of error across all these different type of pages. We can actually check here. We can click here because you say, oh, but this is so weird. It looks like an outdated version, or this is a version that was actually not the one available when we finally launched. I don't know how we ended up having this indexed by Google at some point, whatever. So you can actually go and check the live version of the page here, as you can see, and verify it again with the AMP test to identify if the problems are still in place or not. And then you can share the report. That is specific report with your development team, across the team in charge to troubleshoot with you this type of mistakes. This is amazing because, again, mostly what it is much more difficult here is to share the errors in a meaningful way, to make them understandable, to go across and give access to all the people who needs to have access. Like this, we give access much more easily, and they will see this page here. You see only the specific report with the specific errors that we have shared, so they can be much more easily fixed. Once that they are fixed, they tell us, oh, they are fixed now. You can go and check. We go, checked again, and if they are valid, we have this option now that is called Validate Fix. We click on it, and we send these pages to Google to be reprocessed. Because again, in the past, we had this problem that we see all these legacy errors there keep appearing in the Google Search Console, and they were generating a lot of noise, right? We minimize this type of scenarios now by being able to get, to have also a push type of process to send them across the Google Search Console interface. And of course, we will find situations like this where it says, we cannot continue with the validation process because we have found that you still have these errors in all these URLs. So you should continue fixing the issue. So it's not just about sending and waiting again for 3 days, not knowing what is going on, if it is going to be OK or not, but they are validated again on the go like this. And if they are being processed, you will get an email. We're validating the pages that you have sent, et cetera. After 2 or 3 days, you will get, again, another email saying, we have specifically fixed the issue that you specify about. And all of this is documented in the Google Search Console interface like this. So when it started, if the validation is looking good or not, when it is done, it's also updated there. And you will be able to see here the evolution over time until you get 0 errors. It's about a rinse and repeat type of process. So hopefully you will get here, and you will see how the errors decrease over time. And you will have annotations on when the new issues are found and when they are fixed, too. So it's actually pretty good to identify the correlation of when you fix the issues and when you actually start seeing the best possible results, which, again, will help you show how valuable it is, your troubleshooting work, and why you should keep AMP in place in a correct way. So it's about validating through the whole implementation process right from the start. And then last but not least, this typical issue about we're not sure which are the queries that are generating much more benefit with AMP, right? Like, you have enabled maybe all of your listings, all of your products, or what should be next? Maybe the blog, maybe the community, maybe the, which are the type of pages that are giving you the type of engagement that you're looking for in order for you to refine and expand even more your efforts. So it's about monitoring at all the different levels. First, from an indexing perspective, are all these meaningful pages that you really want to push with AMP, the ones that are being taken into consideration in the Google index? Take a look. You can actually now take a look which are those that are effectively indexed, when they were last detected, if they are being refreshed as you wish, et cetera, et cetera. Then you go to the Google Search Console. In this case, we will need to switch to the old interface. Yet, I have been told that in the future, this will also be brought to the new interface. But right now, we still have it in the old interface. We will go to the Google Search Console Search Analytics report, and we'll be able to filter here rich and unreached results per device mobile. Right now, the results will be shown for mobile. And for each query and for which page these are being shown at the moment, the average position, the click-through rate, the impressions versus click, to understand better the behavior when they are included in the carousels versus when they are included in the organic results, right? We can identify here the pattern. Which are the queries that are including one or the other? What are the type of click-through rates that we get through the swipe? Type of behavior when they are included in the carousels versus the other, et cetera, et cetera. And then this, again, is not so natural. Hopefully, this will be also fixed in the new Google Search Console. We can actually go through each type of query and page to see granularly which are the ones brought by each type of page. If there's even more opportunities of additional queries that we may want to target, which are the other topics that we want to be pushing AMP for, right? So we can go forward, go more granularly by doing this type of questions and analysis, and not only with the Google Search Console, because at the end of the day, the Google Search Console will give us the data for the top queries and pages for which we're already ranking for. We want to know the opportunities out there. What are our competitors doing with tools like Systrix or SEMrush? We can go to their ranking indexes, and we can see for any website, for any domain that we want, which are the queries that they are ranking and targeting with AMP results, and how they are doing it, which type of pages. We can do the same with rank trackers, like SEO monitors. There are more and more rank trackers that support AMP nowadays. So for example, for queries that you're targeting because you wish to rank for, but you're still not somehow ranking for, right? You're maybe in position 30, 40. You can see if they are including AMP results like this, and if there are any other players ranking for them, your competitors like this too. So for example, here I am tracking with SEMrush my own results and the one of my competition out there. So I'm seeing, oh, all these SERP features are shown for these queries, and these are the players that are actually making the most out of them. So that is a nice way to a little bit incentivize your editorial team to cover certain topics, certain terms with AMP pages if you haven't done it yet until now. And last but not least, again, a lot of people ask me, oh, Aleyda, I really want to better understand what is the type of specific behavior and the change of behavior, the impact that the swipe option and functionality has through the top stories carousel, right? If I am included in third and fourth position there, and people need to swipe, what is the click-through rate versus the first one? You can actually track this also with Run Ranger. That is the one run tracking tool that I have found that does this like really easily and straightforward like this, for you to see the impact of being included in number 1 in the carousel, or number 2, or number 3, or number 4, and to better understand this type of settings like that. And last but not least, to understand better the correlation of your index, your rankings, and then at the end of the day, of course, your traffic and conversions, whatever it is a conversion for you in Google Analytics. Now, there is a much more effective way to track this with the API, through the URLs and pages shown through the CDN and the ones that are shown directly by yourself, to make it much more, well, meaningful and relevant to what is actually expected from a behavioral perspective, and better understand, is all of this aligned with what you expected in the first place? Is there a correlation over there of trends? The results are consistent with the type of issues that you have had, and all your efforts that you're doing to improve your experience and optimization along the process. So as you can see, it's about following up with your AMP index, rankings, and traffic to better understand the correlation of them and track at every single stage to identify not only the challenges and the problems, but also the opportunities that will allow you to continue expanding with your results. And, well, this is, again, all the steps that we have followed. Hopefully, they will be relevant for you, useful for you, as they have been for me and the clients that I have worked with. And as you can see, it's about having a good alignment, good project management, good communication too, and include and validate and assess across the process, not just at the end, when all the releases are done, and then we will have all the issues to fix, right? Thank you very much. Hopefully, it's time to maximize your own results.